go back to what I was good at, to where the money was, back to the beige that was drowning me, and my body literally revolted. Nausea, brain fog, rage, like my nervous system hit a tripwire and was screaming, "We are not doing this again." And that's when I knew, this isn't a business. This isn't just burnout. This isn't just a brand. This is resurrection. Welcome to Trashfire Confessions, a podcast for burnt out creatives, ghosted grids, and gloriously feral resurrection stories. First season, Ctrl Alt Resurrect. Because we're not just rebooting, we're rebirthing. And the very first scream out of the grave is my own. I've been writing copy for over 2 decades, and it was just something that came naturally to me. It was the thing that I could do with my eyes closed. It started with writing love notes from high school boys to their girlfriends for lunch money, and I kind of just fell into it because it was easy and it came naturally, and I loved it until I didn't. And after a very interesting period a year and a half ago, where I didn't know that what I was experiencing was extreme burnout, but circumstances kind of evolved in such a way that I ultimately left my job with zero plan, zero savings, nothing to back me up other than it was the right thing for me in that moment, given the circumstances, given all the stuff surrounding it, which I won't go into. Anyway, I kind of spent the next year and a half, or let's say a year, fumbling around for what am I going to do now. And I had thought of maybe starting up my own agency with one of my former co-workers, and the timing and location issues and other stuff made it so that just really wasn't going to work in that moment. And so in between some freelance work and spending a lot of time with my family and thinking that if I just take some time out to relax and de-stress, I was going to be able to just get back in the seat and pick up where I left off. But while all of that was going on, I kind of had the idea that maybe it's time to start that thing of my own that I had been thinking of and had been sitting in the back of my head for years and years and years. And so I did that. I started something that took me back to what I was good at. There was a client who contacted me, knowing my history, who was thinking about starting up a business that had been dormant for a good few years, and asked me if I would be willing to help him to start his marketing up from scratch. And I was all over that because, you know, bills have to be paid. Money's one of them things we can never do without. And I met with him. We talked about what his plans are, what he's trying to do, who he's trying to reach. We spent a good couple of hours sitting down, working out what the strategy was going to be. And I started putting it all together. I built his landing pages. I wrote his value prop copy for him. I sifted through his hundreds and hundreds of videos and photographs and all of that kind of stuff to pick out the right stuff, to make things that are visually appealing, using my copywriting knowledge to write copy that would be engaging and that would set him apart. And as I thought about doing this day in and day out for the next however many months or years, it's like my brain actually shut down in protest. It was, and I didn't realize it initially, because these are things that I've been doing for years, essentially with my eyes closed just about. So it took a little while, and actually it was like one evening, my husband said, listen, what is going on with you? You know, like, you've withdrawn, you're not yourself, you're quiet, you're reserved, you're not saying anything. And I was like, and it hit me in that moment, actually. I was dreading doing this work for this client, not because his business was anything I had an issue with, not because he was unpleasant to deal with, not because of anything like that. I was just completely shut down at the prospect of going back to what I'd always done, which is kind of odd to come to terms with, because it's something that I've just always done. But I realized in that moment, when I was called out on being so not in my life, not present, that I was really, and like, I think that's the first time I honestly, truly realized I was burned out. Like, so completely burned out that I could not function going back to what I had been doing before. It was drowning me. And the second I realized that, I knew there's no way that I can go back to being who I used to be and doing what I used to do and accepting the paycheck or the freelance gig or whatever, and just continuing on that same vein, because it was going to kill me. It was driving me insane. It was literally sucking the life out of me little bit by little bit. But with that being the case, I had to figure out, like, what was I going to do instead? What am I going to do instead? And I realized that this little side project that I had started months ago, thinking it'll eventually grow into something. It'll eventually become my, or I don't know. I can't even say for sure that it was exactly what I was planning to do. But I hit a point at some place in the last few months where it dawned on me, I cannot go back to writing copy for other people. And I think at the core of myself, what I really had to recognize was, while I find it relatively easy to see the value in other people's businesses and their products and their services, and I can grasp what it is that they want the rest of the world to understand about them, and I can package it for them in such a way that other people find it appealing and buy from them. The things that ignite them, the things that make them come alive, the things that they care about, are not the things necessarily that I care about to such an extent that I want to spend my life writing about them or promoting them or putting them out there for everybody. And I kind of had to sit down from that realization and think, well, what do I care about? And what I've realized in the last year and a half is, right now, what I care about is not feeling like I'm dying every time I start doing something. And I think that there are a lot of us out there who feel exactly the same way. You understand how to creatively present stuff. You have the words with which to explain things to people in a way that moves them. you have the capacity, but the desire is dead. And what I desire more than anything now is to find out what ignites me. What do I care about? What do I want to bring to the world and express to them using the knowledge and skills that I've built over 2 decades in marketing? And the first thing is finding what makes me want to be alive. And oddly enough, I think the first part of that is finding my tribe, finding my kindred, finding my cult. The people who, just like me, are sick to death of being spoon-fed the same shit day in and day out. Your Instagram feed, your Facebook feed, your like all your social profiles are filled to the gills and bursting with the same stuff that like people are feeding you from every angle every single day. And as a marketer especially, what is driving me insane is that you have the same cliched crap being spewed at you from every possible angle every single day, and people keep telling you that you're gonna make it if you just stick to it, or somebody comes with some new AI thing and they're like, this is the tool that's going to make you make your six figures in 2 months, or make your first sale in 10 minutes, or whatever it is. And they keep on selling you these same things, and everyone is trying to sell you a course that teaches you how to sell the same course. And like 90-something% probably of those people who buy into it fail, because it's just not a sustainable thing. And while yes, there are absolutely lessons to be learned about how to communicate online and how to create decent visuals and how to build websites and how to build landing pages, all these things, once you've learned those basic skills, what are these people giving you? What are you gaining, and what are you giving that enables you to move forward from that point onwards? And I think that ultimately, for me as a marketer of several years experience, is why I'm burned out. I am so sick of the crap that we are being fed in the hope that some of us maybe sometime will thrive. You don't have to be doing what everybody else is doing. You don't have to sell the same courses. You don't have to follow the same path as everybody else in order to succeed. In fact, those who have succeeded doing those things that are being shoved down everybody's throats right now, they were the forerunners, and they were there probably a good couple of decades before any of us. So newsflash, that shit's not going to work. That shit's not going to get you there. And yes, you may find some level of mild plugging success if you just stay consistent and you post every day and you follow the styles that people present to you, your hooks and your like all the different gimmicks. But at the end of the day, if you are not selling something that people need or want, you're not going to get anywhere and you're not going to succeed. So, and that could take years to figure out, if you don't already have something that is popular or that is wanted or that is needed or that is proven to deliver some kind of value that people are willing to exchange money for, you are not going to make it. And I guess for me, I had to take a very hard look at what that means, because the skill that I have as a copywriter and a marketer is largely being replaced right now by tools like ChatGPT, which, you know, people have ChatGPT write them their copy, and anyone who doesn't have an eye for what does and doesn't work and isn't good copy isn't necessarily going to know that the formulaic kind of stuff that you get fed by the algorithms and the bots is not going to have the same impact as something real that actually answers a need in the public that you're trying to speak to. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's going into a whole nother different thing. And what I'm here for right now really is, I don't want to be every other marketer out there. And I don't necessarily want to sell you the same tools and methods that everybody else is using to get or try and get to the same level as everybody else. I think it is so important in an age where there is so much sameness and so much conformity and so much blind following of trends, that being who you actually are and offering something real is everything. And in your business, that basically translates to offering something that nobody else does. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and figure out a whole new product or a whole new business model or a whole new something that nobody else has, because let's face it, that's really difficult to do when you're 1 out of 8 billion people on the planet. But what it does mean is you can connect to people in your area for whom your specific location or skill or product or service or approach makes more sense than the other guys. And in order to offer them that, you need to very seriously think about how that works and what exactly that is and how to express that to the people that you most want to do business with. And maybe it's not even about doing business. Maybe it's just about reconnecting with yourself and people who share your values, who share your approach to life, who share your way of thinking. And for me, that's obviously, well, not obviously, but definitely been a huge point of evolution in my career over the last 2 decades in marketing and as a copywriter and as a communicator, because there have been times where I found myself in a position where, sure, people respect me for my skill and my experience and my ability to use words and to communicate, but most of my colleagues at one particular point were 10 to 15 years younger than me, and we found it very difficult to relate on a personal level. And say what you like, the fact is, when you're working with people in a creative space, you need to have some level of interpersonal connection. You need to be able to relate to one another somehow. And that becomes difficult when there's an almost generational gap between you and your peers in the workplace. At least that's what I felt and found was the case. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, because damn, if I'm the only one exactly like I am on this planet in every single way, then I should be a multi-bajillionaire, which I'm not yet. But yeah, which also, that circumstance, by the way, led to, I think, some level of burnout, and a general sense of dissatisfaction in the workplace, even though the projects that I was working on were fantastic. I got to work on some really cool luxury travel brands. I got to work on beauty brands. I got to work on banking brands. I got to work on, oh gosh, like so many fun things. And that kind of brings me to another point, which is that it's not the work that was burning me out. It was the culture and the approach and the way that things are structured around the work, which again validates that the burnout now in the last year came from that same place of forcing myself to fit into a mold that doesn't fit me. And you know what? I am bigger than that mold, and I have more to give than that mold can contain. And that is why I refuse. I cannot. I physically feel ill at the thought of going back to being that level of beige and following everyone else. Which is why, after this recent episode where I was trying my best to be enthusiastic about delivering content for this client, I realized that my value is in the approach that I can help people to develop. It is in the clarity that I can help you find in expressing exactly what it is that you have to offer, and what that value is for the right client for your specific offer or approach. And so I guess all of that to say, I've created a program that I call Clarity by Combustion. And if anything that I have said so far resonates with you, we should talk. And the link is in my show notes.